And there is a question and answer feature at the bottom of your webinar. So if you click on there, you can answer questions and we will do our best to get to those either live or through a text response. But we're gonna wait a couple, probably about 30 more seconds here and let people load in. So welcome for those of you who are joining us. We're gonna wait about 10 more seconds. Just a reminder, there is a question and answer option, so you can ask questions during the presentation today. And you do that via a little box at the bottom of your screen, and we will answer those either live or via written response. And so I just want to say thank you. My name is Corey Palmer. I'm the Senior Director of Development for the College of Natural Science here. Our office is responsible for all the fundraising and alumni relations for the college. And we've really enjoyed doing these virtual events and staying connected with all of you during this challenging time. I would like to introduce Phil Duxbury, the Dean of the college. He is going to do a brief college update. And then from there, we will kind of work through some questions that we've already heard from alumni and friends, and we're open to hearing from yours as well. So Phil?
Good afternoon, NatSci Spartans. Welcome to another great online event. I want to thank the Advancement and Alumni Engagement team for their hard work and excellent work in putting these together. We've had a series of events over the last month or two, and these have been really exciting and well attended. So the next one is Thursday, September 10th, which is on PFAS and forever chemicals that are in our environment due to things like foam used in fire retardants. We've had events in the past around vaccines and viruses, which was a very well attended event. And the last one we had was on improving science education through data-driven discovery. And all of them have been great examples of the kind of things that are going on in NatSci. A quick update of where we are. So as you probably know, our classes start September 2nd, and our undergraduate programs are all online. Well, actually, not all. There are a few things that are exceptions to the rule. So we're looking at students that have to have labs to really complete their degrees or for certifications. So within NatSci, we have some classes, laboratory classes in chemistry and biochemistry and MMG, which will run in person. Of course, we have to obey all the rules of social distancing and wearing masks and sanitizing. And this is a new thing for us, but we're ready for it. We've been practicing for it. And so we believe we can do this very safely. The message from President Stanley last week, which informed our students about the fact that undergraduate classes would be online, doesn't seem to affect our enrollment. Our enrollment's pretty steady. So that's wonderful news for us. Enrollments this year in NatSci are similar to previous years. So we haven't had the serious impacts of enrollment reductions that we had feared. Our international and out-of-state student numbers are a little bit down, and that causes some concerns. But we're really very happy with the fact that Michigan State is still doing extremely well, even in this environment. Due to the fact we're now online, the freshman colloquium is virtual this year, and we'll try to do the best we can in that environment. Of course, when on campus, we have to wear masks. We have to face the fact that there's been pretty significant budget cuts at the university and at the state level. So budget cuts on campus include cuts to the college, which was a 3% cut, and then some salary cuts and cuts to retirement benefits, which so far are temporary. And we really hope the fact that we have strong enrollments will enable us to make them temporary rather than permanent. We're working very hard on diversity, equity, and inclusion to try and improve the representation in our college. At the present time, we have rather poor representation amongst African Americans in particular, but also women in science fields, and we want to improve that. One thing that's happened recently is we're collaborating with the College of Arts and Letters and the Broad College to develop new tools for online education. And we have a wonderful group of people that are collaborating to put those tools together. And more recently, those tools are being translated to the school districts, particularly Okemos, but also others. And so that's a great thing. That is a positive outcome of COVID. We believe these online tools may be more broadly applicable, and providing advanced science and math education to schools across the state is a target we have there. So with that, I'd like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves and thank them for participating in this event, and thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Eric Hegg, and I'm the Associate Dean for Budget Planning, Research Administration. And basically what that means is my job to ensure the faculty have the resources, support, and infrastructure needed to perform world-class research, and also to ensure that each of the missions of the college have the resources they need to excel. This would include undergraduate teaching, undergraduate advising, as well as the graduate programs and the interdisciplinary programs.
I'm Lynn Marie Posey. I'm in week 2 of my new role as Associate Dean for Undergraduate Studies in the college. And ultimately, my role in the college is about supporting student success through working with faculty, advisors, and students to ensure success for all students.
Good afternoon. I'm Heidi Purdy. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies. My role in the college is really to be a policy expert and to be a student advocate. I help students as they try and walk through their undergraduate career at Michigan State to make sure that they can be successful and help them navigate what can sometimes be a confusing pathway through Michigan State. And so we make sure that they can get onto those goals that they are seeking and headed towards so successfully.
Hi, I'm Stephen Thomas. This is my cat Nibs. I thought I could make it through a whole session without him, but clearly not. I'm the digital curriculum coordinator for the College of Natural Science, which basically is I help faculty to teach better with technology. And I'm also the associate director for the Center for Integrative Studies in General Science, which is basically I teach science to non-scientists.
Great, thank you everybody. And Stephen, I love that your cat made an appearance. I was telling everybody earlier that I have 2 young kids at home and I have threatened them not to enter the room, which guarantees that they will show up at some point over the next hour. So we're going to kick it off. I'm going to moderate with some questions that we've already heard from some of our alums, and an alum from Fort Collins actually sent in what was going to be my first question as well. And this is for Lynn Marie. So as someone who's teaching an online class this fall, I know you're actually teaching 2. Can you share a little bit of what your online class looks like, and then maybe talk about what an online lab would look like as well?
Sure. So I'm teaching an introductory chemistry course this semester. And a really important part of this course is giving students opportunities to learn together. And that's really hard in a virtual space. So one of the ways that we are planning to help students work with each other is through the use of Zoom. We can put students in breakout rooms. I have undergraduate learning assistants who have taken the course previously and were successful, as well as a graduate teaching assistant. And so our plan is to actually spend a significant part of each class period having students work together in breakout rooms with the undergraduate learning assistants, the graduate TA, and myself, sort of being coaches on the side. We're going to move a fair amount of the content delivery into sort of mini lecture videos that students can view ahead of time, so that we have more time to work collaboratively during class. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of a online homework platform that was developed by one of my colleagues in chemistry, Melanie Cooper, and this platform is called Be Socratic. And in this platform is different from a lot of online platforms in that students can write free responses, they can draw, and it's possible for me as an instructor to show students anonymous submissions to organize discussions during class. So that's what I have in mind for my class. And I think a lot of faculty are thinking about taking this kind of approach to really foster interactions between students. So you may be wondering, how can you possibly do a laboratory course online? But if we think about what it is that, scientists do when they're in the lab, they do a lot more than just actually performing the experiments. So this summer, we piloted fully online versions of the general chemistry labs, and we were able to maintain everything that we thought was important about the course, with the exception of students actually having the hands-on experience. So our students still ask scientific questions around various project scenarios. They plan investigations, and we've taught these labs for long enough that we sort of know what kinds of experiments they're likely to propose. And so we have videos, we have simulation or web apps that generate measurement data with some random error thrown in. So students can still make observations from the videos, they can work with the measurement data, so they can do their data analysis, and they can make claims and argue from evidence based on the experimental data that is provided. And then finally, our students are still able to communicate their experimental results through writing a formal lab report, doing oral presentations as a team, also doing poster presentations in this virtual environment. And I think one of the things that I've learned through this process is that a lot of the work that we are doing to move these courses online is ultimately going to make our courses better when we return to face-to-face instruction.
Great, thank you. And I should have mentioned prior to starting as well, and Limerick, thank you so much, is because we only have an hour here today, we are going to try to keep our responses brief and kind of high level. But if anybody has additional questions or they want us to dig deeper into something, please let us know in the question and answer box in the bottom of your screen, and we'd be happy to go into more detail. We just wanted to make sure we gave a great overview of everything happening on campus. So Stephen, I'm going to put you on the spot next and just see if you had any insights into the online experience. And, something we get questions about quite frequently is cheating more common? What are we doing to kind of prevent cheating virtually?
Cheating is a concern that not just comes up with, I think it comes up with faculty too, especially those who are not familiar with online teaching. If we look at the literature, it's actually pretty interesting in that you don't find more cheating necessarily in online situations. Sometimes the studies will show that there's more cheating in face-to-face than there is in online. And so it's basically, it doesn't boil down to the mode of delivery. It's actually a very complex phenomenon in that things like stress and whether or not students understand what they're being taught, like how it applies to their life. There's all these things that kind of all go together to basically inform academic dishonesty. And so what we've been doing here, both in the college and at MSU, is trying to address all of these pieces. So we've adopted new proctoring software, which helps to give more validity to the process of doing assessment. But at the same time, we've been working with faculty to talk to them about what are your objectives for your course, and how do you communicate those as being important to students, right? To help them communicate why students should be invested in actually obtaining the knowledge and skills. But what I think is interesting is really the pandemic has thrown kind of all research on its ear, and that it's increased the amount of stress. It's also increased, students their ability to see how what they're doing now relates to these new situations. So I think that it's become a very hard challenge, and one that we don't have all the answers for, but we are trying to address it more globally.
Great, thank you. So before we move away from sort of the online classroom experience, does anybody have anything else they wanted to add in regards to online classes. Phil, I know sometimes you talk about how you feel that this is preparing our students for the changing landscape in the workforce.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, COVID's going to change the way education is delivered, but it's also going to change the workplace. There's a lot of companies now that are moving a lot of their operations online and remote, which means that post-COVID, a lot of our graduates will be moving into a very new work environment. So the skills they learn through online courses, they should think about as helping them succeed in the world after COVID.
I agree. As someone who's spending her full days on Zoom, I know that this is probably helpful. Limri, you've talked before how you feel this is improving future in-person instruction. Can you expand on that a little bit?
So one of the things in the online environment is it really requires instructors to be more clear about their expectations for students, both in terms of the assignments they complete, but also the objectives for the courses. And we have a learning management system called D2L. And I have to admit that I basically used D2L as a file cabinet. And one of the things the transition to online has forced me to do is be more intentional about how I organize the material, the amount of direction that I give to students within D2L, that it's not just, well, here's a file with this homework assignment. This is how you things like this is how you submit a written homework assignment online. So, what do you have to do to give us something that will allow us to assess your understanding?
Great, thank you.
So, Corey, I
see. Oh, go ahead.
Herbert has his hand up. Maybe he would like to ask a question.
Oh, let me see here. Hold on one second. I can probably. Can you let me, oh, here we go. Mr. Herbert, I think that you should be, if you can unmute yourself, we would love to hear your question live, or I can see, oh, so you should be able to unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question. And we'd love for you guys to be interactive, and feel free to raise your hands if you have questions.
Yeah, mine was just a quick question. You said earlier that, Phil, that the total enrollment looked like it was about the same. I've lost track. What does total enrollment look like? And is there a quick way, without wasting a lot of time, of knowing how that gets split up between departments?
It's a good question.
Maybe it's something you could send along later if it's not appropriate today. Thanks.
I think Heidi probably can give she knows this number, right?
Yeah.
So I can tell you that the goal for admissions for the overall institution for Michigan State this year was to have 8,600 incoming freshmen, and we have actually made that goal and just slightly exceeded it. So we have that. For the College of Natural Science, we are about 1,600, including our freshmen and our transfer students coming in this year. And then our overall undergraduate population is going to be right around 5,600, 5,700, depending on some of our final numbers coming in, because we are finishing up our orientation this week. So we still have some numbers adding in. And so that is what we're looking at, with another 1,500 to 1,800 graduate students. Now, dividing it up by departments is a little bit trickier, and I don't want to give you too many incorrect numbers. And so we certainly can get more specific numbers out once we have those in hand for the fall. But in general, when we're looking at our undergraduate numbers, we are looking at a little more than 55 to 60% are biology majors, and then the remaining numbers for the undergraduates are going to be in our physical science and mathematical science numbers. although we do have a growth in our mathematical side of the house with our new data science major that launched last year, it is growing by leaps and bounds. So we have a feeling we're going to see some of that start to tip a little bit on the mathematical sciences side of things. So we are pleased to look at our numbers, and actually our enrollments always include not just our majors, but majors throughout the college, or excuse me, throughout the university. And I can report that we are tracking those very closely, and those numbers are holding steady too. So we're very pleased in the college that we have such dedicated budding scientists, and that just overall our Spartan family is growing right on schedule.
Thank you. That's congratulations.
Jim, that was a great question. And I will add too, one of the things we pride ourselves on in NatSci is that every student that comes to Michigan State actually takes classes within the College of Natural Science. So we actually touch all students on campus. So wrapping up online experience, anything else anybody would like to add? I'll wait 1 second. Why?
I would.
Okay, great. Yes.
Just having taught online for about 12 years now, I know that some people have reservations about thinking about online courses, but to me, it actually has this kind of egalitarian nature of it, in that we have students who have families and who work, and this ability to allow people to have this break in geography or the temporal piece really broadens it out. And even the tools that we are using, which allows people to revisit lectures, and it helps people with English as a second language or with learning disabilities. So I think that Lynn Marie really had a great point about how this really will drive improvements across the board, I think, in our ability to meet students where they're at and to help them acquire the knowledge and skills that they need.
And if I can just follow up quickly, one of the things that I've noticed is that you get more students willing to ask questions and participate when they don't feel like they're having to speak in front of a class of 200, 250 people. And if they're an introvert, that's a real barrier to them asking questions. But that doesn't mean they don't have very good questions. And so giving them an avenue to ask questions, I've seen much more participation, I guess, more broadly speaking. So I think that's a real benefit.
Great, thank you. So when we planned this event, we had thought that there would be in-person classes happening, and we were prepared to show you pictures of what those classrooms look like. And since there's been a change, we will talk about that there is still research actively happening on campus, and Eric actually has been working 24/7 to get that back up and running. And he probably could do 7 webinars talking about the process. But I don't know if you want to give us just a high-level overview of kind of the process of opening buildings back up on campus, because I think that gives people a good insight into safety and everything that we're considering.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First, I just want to start out by just letting everyone know, if they don't already know, that the university never really shut down, and research did not completely stop. There was always some amount of research going on, and this would include people who had plants they needed to take care of, or cell lines they needed to take care of, or microbes and things like that, or anyone doing COVID-19 related research. Also, that was going on as well, under strict guidelines, of course, but those were all occurring. And then starting about the end of May and into the beginning of June, we started the process of sort of reopening the labs more broadly, and it had a number of steps into it. The first is the building itself had to be certified that it could, that it was safe for occupants to come back in. And while that may sound straightforward, it turns out that when you don't have people, a lot of people in the building for a couple of months, things like flushing the water, making sure the fume hoods still work. I mean, it's all kind of these basic things that had to be done for each and every building. And then each building had to put together a safety plan. And the safety plan dealt with all sorts of things, including, what was the protocols for people coming in and out of the building? How could you deal with contact tracing? Should that be necessary? What you do about food? What do you do about common touch items, like if instruments? Many people may use the same instrument. How many people are allowed in the in the labs and things like that? And then the next step was the individual lab plan. So each faculty member put together a lab plan for their particular lab that was unique to them, obviously. And all of these documents went through approval by EHS, Occupational or Environmental Health and Safety, before anyone could start. And basically, it's just there are really two main reasons for all these sort of hoops we went through. Obviously, the overarching thing is to keep everyone safe, but within that, it was to ensure that we had good, physical distancing, and people were just following, reasonable practices, wearing masks, kind of the obvious things. But the second point was to really make sure people thought about it. You don't want to realize that, oh, this wasn't a very good idea when you're in the middle of it. Right? So they really wanted people to think about what they were doing so they didn't get themselves in a situation where they realized halfway through, wow, this was really a bad idea. And so, so that's the process we went through. And I would say that by pretty much the beginning of July, most of the NatSci buildings and departments were up and running at near full speed. And then by the end of July, pretty much everyone was. For labs that had lots of people in them, social distancing was a bit of a challenge. My own lab, for instance, I have to run 2 shifts. I run a shift from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and a shift from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. And so that way we can everybody can get in there, get a full 6 hours in, get a lot of lab work done, but it depopulates the lab. Problems that has sort of brought to light, I guess, is the fact that you do lose some camaraderie. It's unfortunate, and we're doing our best. We're doing lots of interacting, virtually, obviously, but you do lose a little bit of camaraderie, and we're trying our best to, as everybody is, to try to overcome that. But that is one challenge to it. But other than that, I think it's going very well. And I ask people all the time, and I certainly ask my own students, how productive are you? Are we at like 60%, 70%? If you think back to how productive you were in the lab 9 months ago, how are you today? And uniformly, all of them said at least 85% or higher. A couple of them actually said, I'm doing just as well. They're being a little bit more intentional about their time. They're planning ahead a little bit more. And so I think they're being more efficient. So overall, I think it's going really well. But that's the general process, and we're almost completely done getting. We're pretty much running on full cylinders now.
Right. And so, Eric, we had a question written in. Are there changes happening to buildings in the air handling to try and minimize aerosol spread? And what about elevator versus stair protocols, which I know is something you've talked a lot about?
Right, absolutely. So I encourage everyone to take the stairs unless they have a good reason for the elevator, right? I mean, there are sometimes you need to take the elevator, but generally speaking, for most of the elevators, they're limited to one per elevator. So that's how we deal with that. Elevators are definitely sort of problematic. In terms of the air handling, that's a great question. Every building is a little bit different, but they've gone through the buildings. They've looked at sort of the sort of recycle rate, and in cases where they could easily do so, they basically just increase the flow of air coming in from the outside. So they're just turning over more frequently than they used to. And for buildings such as chemistry and biochemistry with a bunch of hoods, it turned over, I don't know, once every 15 minutes anyway, or some really short period of time. That's decreased even further. And some of the other buildings don't have so many hoods. They just increase the influx of air from the outside. So it's costing a little bit more energy, because that means you're blowing more now cool air out, and I guess in the wintertime it will be blowing more hot air out. So there's a little bit of more energy cost there, but it's definitely keeping everyone much safer.
Great, thank you. And What about students? Are students still participating in research? I know a lot of people that are joining us today did undergraduate research when they were here. Are we still able to give that opportunity to our students during this?
Yes, absolutely. So when this is an evolving process. Certainly, the graduate students and the postdocs and the staff are going, full steam ahead like before. The undergraduate students have been working in the labs as if they were paid employees in some way, shape, or form, really from the very beginning. So really, when graduate students came back, students who were already in the lab, who were already had a relationship and were getting paid for it. That was kind of the rule that was set down for the upper administration. They were paid and they were doing what we called critical research functions. So the question is, moving forward, can people take it for credit, which a lot of people want to do, obviously. We are still in discussions and negotiations with upper administration. As a college, we would like to make that available, but as of yet, there's been no definitive rule from above yet on that, for people taking it for credit or just volunteering. So.
Great, thank you. Anybody else would like to add about research before we move on to kind of our next topic?
So I'd just like to add that our graduating seniors are a priority in thinking about, involvement with undergraduate research, particularly in the context of courses. And so that is one of the areas that we're pushing really hard on the administration to get approval to allow at least students that are intending to graduate in the next year to have those opportunities in the research labs, because in some cases, advanced laboratory courses have moved online.
Great, thank you, Linda Marie, for that perspective. So I'm going to move on to kind of our student support, and I could probably say everybody on this panel is working 24/7 these days, but Heidi has been very busy. And so Heidi, do you want to talk a little bit about what does advising look like now virtually? How are we supporting our students through this transition into the semester?
Absolutely. So as was mandated by the president, all advising and faculty office hours are online for the fall semester, as they have been since we moved online back in March. And so what that looks like is actually pretty smooth transition. So the students join us on Zoom platforms. Our advisors all establish their own Zoom rooms uniquely for advising. They have waiting rooms for the students to come into. This actually allows them to not only schedule appointments, but they're still available for what we're calling drop-ins, since we used to call them walk-in appointments, and we don't want to be too inaccurate since they're not walking in. And so the students can set up appointments ahead of time, or they can, during designated times, drop into the advisor's Zoom room and work with them very closely. We had been working on this a lot during the spring semester, and I think over the summer during orientation, we really perfected this, as all of academic orientation, our new student orientation, was online this summer. So we worked very closely at establishing that relationship with students and starting to get them to know them even in the virtual setting. So I can report that we're actually very pleased with this setting. While our advisors know that it is good to be establishing those relationships in person, we are having less no-shows. So in past, we had a lot of students that would sign up for appointments but not be able to make it for some reason or another, whether it was their car broke down, the bus was full, all kinds of different reasons that they didn't make it to our office. And now we find that we don't get that near as often. So we have a lot of students that are reaching out and are able to work with us in that capacity. So our advisors have just gotten incredibly creative and have done a lot of work this summer on being proactive, reaching out to students and checking in with them, seeing how they're doing in their classes, but also seeing how they're doing personally, finding out more about their living situations, and just really being that all-around support person that can help guide them in many ways as they're trying to learn and navigate through this new landscape in preparation for those skills they will take on to that next level, as Dean Duxbury absolutely mentioned earlier.
Great, thank you. So one of the questions we sometimes get when meeting with alumni and donors is, what can they be doing to support our students right now? How can they help? So I know you have some ideas on what that looks like.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of really key areas that we keep hearing from students. One is we do have students that have a lot of housing and food insecurities right now. And so we are working very closely with them to try and find as many resources as we can. And we are absolutely blessed in the college to have the Natural Science Emergency Scholarship Fund for our students. So when students are having financial troubles, they can come, and we have this fabulous pot of money that has been exclusively built on donations from alumni and our faculty and staff in the college to help support our students in their moments of need. As we've gone through this pandemic, there have been some state relief funds and some federal relief funds, and the students that have applied for those have just been astronomical numbers, and those funds were exhausted very, very early on. I don't believe either one of those funds that we were working with even made it into May. But the beautiful thing is that our NatSci Emergency Fund has continued to be able to support students all the way up until I gave away some money to 2 different students that were in need yesterday. And it's so rewarding to be able to have a student come who just is at their wit's end and be able to hand them some money and say, yep, we care, we're here for you. And so that is one area that we would love to see continue. This fund is completely driven by donors again. And so any way that you could give to that fund, that will directly impact students tomorrow if you give today. So definitely think about that. The other area is around some more experiential learning. So as our in-person experiences have been limited, we are looking for other ways to get students the skills of working with other people, skills in their chosen career pathways, anything that they can do in an internship type of setting. And this is a whole new type of thing, to do an internship in a virtual setting. But we're finding that many companies are really, really happy with the ability to get some really top-notch MSU Spartans in to do internship work virtually when the company is all the way in California or in a different location. It's a pretty incredible thing, because we do get those young minds out there and contributing, learning, and really having that give and take back and forth with companies and with other methods of learning that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So I think that this is a really unique space that alumni can step up and help. If you think you have the ability to take on an intern, or even if you're willing to take on students just to virtually shadow you for a day or do an informational interview, just things that they can get started with that help to build the Spartan network and really just make sure that the students know that they do have resources beyond the institution, because we are such a great family and just force of alumni across the world. I feel very blessed that I'm a part of that as a graduate of Michigan State myself. And the students just so appreciate that. And I think that would really widen experiences for students. In general, I can also say that this is a huge area that is building up internationally. So we have a lot of students who would have been on education abroad trips that are now looking at international online or virtual internships. And I think that that's a really great opportunity as well. So just getting that further learning, even if they do have to stay a little bit closer to home.
Thank you. And I'm going to, I'll follow up real quick on that. So thank you for mentioning the Student Emergency Fund, because I understand that it's a very important fund in the college. And so what I will do is if anyone's interested in contributing, I will include the link in the follow-up email that you are going to get tomorrow. And then Heidi, if somebody's interested in possibly a virtual internship experience or something, would they contact you? Would you be the appropriate person?
Absolutely. They can certainly contact me. We're also, we have some great people in our college. Sarah Whitaker is a specialist in some of our off-campus and education abroad studies. So she's gotten very interested and involved in some of our international internships and may be a great source. And also Brian Telfor, who is our career field consultant in the college. And he is highly involved in how do we get our students ready with the right skills to take their next leap into the career field. So I would love to be the starting point so anyone can get a hold of me. And Corey, you can include my email as well in that follow-up email. And yeah, we'd love to get connected with students and with all the resources out there for sure.
Wonderful. That was actually going to be my next question. So, and I want to welcome Lynn Marie to say a few comments, because I think as someone who's in the undergraduate world as well, you have a little bit perspective of what some of our students are going through right now.
Yes, so as you can imagine, this is really an incredibly stressful time for many students, not just the uncertainty about how they're going to take their classes, but things, as Heidi mentioned, food insecurity, housing insecurity, the announcement to go online and to encourage as many students as possible to live at home, created a lot of stress for some of our students who really call MSU is their home, because for various reasons, they don't have another place to live, either because of situations with their families. There are also students who have been in the foster care system. And so, I guess, please be assured that MSU is trying to take care of these students. There is a process by which students can apply to remain on campus. And there's really a great team of people that works together across the university. I mean, there was a situation that came up over the weekend involving a Nat Sci student who made contact with somebody from another unit. And I brought Heidi in. Student was in another program. We got the director of the program involved. We had to sort of rope in financial aid. And at this point, the student is set. His financial aid is taken care of. He will be able to live on campus. I think another area that is a great concern is students' mental health. And the organization on campus that provides mental health services, CAPS, is offering online services to students. So, I mean, there really is an effort that is taking place across the MSU community to support our students. And the academic advisors in Nat Sci, I mean, do a truly outstanding job of connecting students with the resources that they need.
Great. Thank you, Lynn Marie and Heidi, both for sharing.
Actually, could I add just one more thing?
You can, yes.
So another thing that's happening is there are a lot of students who had jobs on campus, and those jobs will not exist. And so there's been a big push to create remote work study opportunities for students. One of the remote work study opportunities during the summer was crowdsourcing video captioning of instructional videos. And so students could, work on their own schedule to help faculty with creating closed captioning for videos that they recorded for their courses.
Great, thank you. So we do have 15 minutes left. So I do want to remind everybody that there is still time to ask questions. We'll just continue to run through the ones that we've collected beforehand. But if you have live questions, please feel free to ask them or raise your hand. Faculty, I mean, they're a big part of what's on campus. And so what are we doing to support our faculty through this and the university's commitment to improving online education? Stephen, I don't know if this is best for you, or I encourage anyone to answer.
I can start. There's been a lot of effort, I mean, since the spring. So the really rapid move online, it's basically gone from how do we move online in spring last, at a moment's notice, to how do we prepare faculty to develop summer classes, to how do we prepare faculty to teach hybrid courses in the fall, to how do we help them to teach online courses. And so there's been a team across the university that's developed trainings for faculty who have not experienced online learning. We've had, I think, over 800 faculty move through that system, which is like a week-long series of trainings where they're working with their curriculum and then working with curriculum developers to help them to think about, like, what does that online move look like? And we're constantly developing new trainings for each population of how can we help you to, think about hybrid learning, or how can we help you to think about online? So I think the support system has definitely tried to provide faculty those opportunities. And at the same time, I think Central IT has done a phenomenal job of not only helping faculty to learn technologies, but they've also acquired new technologies to make the experience more interactive, more engaging, working with more educational theories that we might want to drive learning through. And some of those adoptions have actually saved students money. I think the last count was over $100,000 of student money had been saved through some of the new adoptions through Central IT.
Great. Anyone else have anything to add? We are getting some questions, so I want to make sure we save some time for those, but our faculty are very important. So I want to make sure we get through everyone's comments on supporting faculty. Okay, so one of our alums who lives on the west side of Michigan says that his son's considering MSU for grad school in the natural sciences. We just heard over the weekend that the GRE subject test was canceled this fall. Will you be adjusting how you view graduate applications? This might be a Phil question.
Yeah, I think I probably can take that one. So the grad admissions is primarily unit by unit. So there are a lot of grad programs, somewhere around 15 or 16 different grad programs in the college. So each of those has their own decision to make. But I do know that many of them are making GREs optional anyway. And given the fact that the GRE is not being offered, it's even more so this fall. So I think the chances are very good that this person can be admitted. And if there are questions about it, we'd be happy to see if we can help.
Great, thank you. Another question we have written in is, any thoughts about making the online courses available post-pandemic? I think MIT does this. Stephen's shaking his head yes.
Yeah, so I think you're really plugging in many of the opportunities that hopefully this will help to build. MSU already has a partnership with Coursera, which is one of the largest offerings of kind of global online courses. But also kind of connecting to Phil's piece that he mentioned at the beginning was this element of how do we actually connect to K-12 teachers in our local region, and the materials that we are developing to support faculty, how can we export those as well, which I think also ties into kind of our land grant mission and thinking about how do we do extension with things like education. So I think those are great opportunities that hopefully this will help to prepare us for.
Great, thanks. I have a couple more questions and I'll probably open it up for some last minute thoughts or comments from all of you before we end. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Are there COVID-19 testing sites that are easily accessible by students who are living near campus? I don't know, Eric or Phil.
I'd be happy to answer that. So there are 3 testing sites that the university is putting up at the Pavilion, at Spartan Stadium, and at Owen Health Center. And so they're for clinical testing. So it will be just like the places that are off campus, but these are really focused both on Michigan State University students and faculty and staff, but people from the community can also use these capabilities. So it's a very broad clinical testing capability. In addition, there's going to be what's called epidemiologically or survey testing, where they're just doing random testing of students to see how many have the infection. So both of these processes are happening. A lot of the test analysis is going to happen on campus. So there is a lot of activity around this area.
Great, thank you. And I know we mentioned before we went live is we don't have the answers to everything, right? So the next question is when will students know if the spring semester's course will be online or in person? Do we have an idea on when they'll make a decision?
No, but there's a lot of pressure. I mean, the last 2 decisions were on pretty short timescales. The first one in the spring, we had 2 hours notice, and this one we had maybe 10 days. So a lot of the deans, a lot of the faculty and the students are saying, come on, we've got to make an earlier decision for spring. And so there is a lot of pressure on the upper administration to really try and make this decision and giving people more time to adjust to what's happening. But I think it's fair to say the most probable thing is that it will be online, but we will figure out as we go along just how many students we can have on campus and be safe. And so I would be encouraging the university to try to allow us to run more in-person activities that are essential for progress. And hopefully we can do more of that in the spring, provided we can be safe.
Great. So we have about 7 minutes left. So I want to invite all of you to make any last minute comments or maybe expand on something that we've already talked about. I don't know if you felt like we missed something or you want to talk a little bit more about anything in particular.
So Corey, one thing I can add to about the undergraduate research in the labs, we talked about, or Lynn Marie discussed, having laboratory classes online. And don't forget that we can also do a lot of research remotely as well. So undergraduates, although it still remains unclear as to how broadly they can be in the lab, and that decision presumably will be coming in the not too distant future. We do know that they can absolutely participate virtually, and there's a lot of opportunities for that. In fact, I had a summer student this year that was entirely remotely, and a lot of science now is in fact, it involves computational things, right? Even in biochemistry, my field, there's a lot of computational things that people can and quite frankly need to learn. It is a new world, and so I would say about half of what we do anyway is computational type work. It's using huge data sets. It's analyzing the data. It's trying to make connections across various disciplines. And so all of these things can be done very effectively remotely. So there are some things that are hard, obviously much harder to do than, for you in person, but there's still a lot that can continue and virtually and be very successful.
So Eric, if an MSU student did want to get involved with remote research this semester, or Heidi, what would be the best way for them to pursue that?
So I guess I'll answer first and I'll pass off to Heidi. From my own personal experience, I would say that the best thing to do is one of two things. Either contact the kind of the undergraduate advisor of that department, who often knows which faculty members are interested in hosting something like this, and or just contact the faculty member directly. Every single faculty member gets 100 emails a day, but if they say something in the subject line, interested in doing undergraduate research or something like that, and then explain why it is they want to work in that lab. What is it about that research that excites them? And then as a faculty member, I can tell you, like, oh wow, this person took the time to look at my website and learn about the research and understand, what it is that excites them about it, and then articulate it. And that to me, like, puts them right at the top. So just being proactive.
I would absolutely agree. That's 100% what we recommend when students are looking for things. The other thing that I tell them to add into that email is to ask if there are particular articles that faculty member would recommend that they read to learn more about the area of research. I think the initiative to say that, hey, I'm interested, and whether or not you can fit me in the lab, I still want to know more, really does show that they have this very, very strong passion for that particular area of science or research and want to get involved. And so I think that is essential when trying to get into a research position. The other thing is persistence. If a student doesn't get into that lab this semester, maybe the lab is full. And so they go back and say, okay, next semester, hey, I'm still really interested. Did you happen to have any openings that came available, that type of thing? And asking for an informational interview with that faculty member so that they can learn more, even if they can't get into the research lab yet. Persistence does make a difference in showing that you have that dedication to that subject matter.
And I think there also are some creative ways that undergraduates can begin engaging with a research group, even if they can't get into the lab this semester, because every research group has group meetings, and group meetings are entirely virtual for the foreseeable future. So that is a way for an undergraduate to start learning what is happening in a particular research group. Often, advisors usually ask undergraduate students to go through responsible conduct of research training, and that's online. So that could be done in preparation for getting into the research lab. You could read papers. Often undergraduates are teamed up with a graduate student, and it might be possible to convince their graduate student partner to wear a GoPro camera while they're working in the lab. It's not the same as being there, but it would provide a sort of an introduction to the kinds of things that students could do when they are allowed in the research labs.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more minutes. Anyone else have anything they want to close out with before I do the official goodbye?
I think if I can add, we are working so hard in the academics, and that is obviously the essential core of what we do when working with students. But I also want to highlight